Hello friends, Tanya here with a video featuring Spellbinders, lots of new goodies. These are the Susan's Gardens Tropical Getaway in Hibiscus and Plumeria. It just started snowing here, so this is perfect timing for me. I want to think of warmth. I pulled out some colored cardstock from my stash, and I'm going to add some shimmer to it with the Distress Mica Spray Stains, which are a limited edition, and I don't know if you can get them anywhere anymore, but I have them, gonna use them. I put them in this box, and I am spattering them with, or spritzing them with, this is Flickering Candle, the orange was Jack-o'-lantern, and the pink is called Winterberry. I dried those with my heat tool, and then I'm gonna take them over to my die cutting machine, and I'm going to die cut a bunch of pieces to make some hibiscus flowers and some plumerias. For the leaves, I've separated those out, and I'm going to use Rustic Wilderness and Mowed Lawn. Starting with the Mowed Lawn, this is the Distress ink, not the Distress Oxide. I wanted the more pure color without the oxidation. And I'm using my blender brush here. I have them just color coded, all of the greens. I use the one that says green, etc. And I'm just going to go and ink up each of these leaves. I'm only going to show you one set of the hibiscus and one set of the plumeria. Next, I'm going to take this teeny tiny little blender brush, and I am going to use dried marigold to add color to the centers of the plumeria flower pieces. There is a 3-petal piece and a 2-petal piece for each flower, for both the plumeria and the hibiscus. I am adding Crackling Campfire to the centers of the hibiscus, and that is truly a chameleon ink for these colors. I used a peachy pink, 2 colors of orange, and 1 of yellow, and I used that same ink to add color to the centers of each of those. I would recommend going with a dark contrast center for the hibiscus flowers. It does tend to show up better. Next, I take the leaves and I use the leaf tool from the Susan's Garden toolkit. That toolkit is amazing. I cannot tell you how much time and effort it has saved me. If you don't have one, you should get it. If you're going to get any of these Susan's Gardens die sets, because it really does shorten your work. So I'm going to use the loop tool to add some texture to each of the leaves, just stroking down the front. Then I will fold the center, flip it over, and use the medium ball stylus to tip the tips of the leaves back. All of these little steps help create a very realistic looking flower in the end product. You do the same thing for each of these. The hibiscus leaves do have some veining in addition to the line down the center. Next, we're going to take the Plumeria flowers, and I'm taking my medium ball stylus and running it around the edge of each of those petals. Then I'm going to take my tweezers and curl the edges of the petals. Now the petals are supposed to kind of overlap concentrically. I couldn't get mine to do it, and frankly, I don't think you need to. I think this turns out pretty awesome without doing that. However, Susan Tierney Cockburn, there we go, that's the name. She has done some instructional videos for all of these flowers also, and they're on the Spellbinders website, on the Spellbinders YouTube channel, and you can watch her create them. This flower isn't perfectly symmetrical. I found the best way to layer this was to take the 2-petal piece and put that down. Here I am trying to get those petals to lay concentrically with one edge overlapping, kind of like a pinwheel. I couldn't get it to work. I just couldn't get it to work. Someone smarter than me will have to do that. So what I did was just get them all cupped. I used the smallest ball stylus to push the centers down, And I'm going to add some prills to the inside of each of these flowers. It adds a lot of detail to these flowers, and I kind of made a mess. I kept trying different ways to get the prills controlled as I'm trying to add them to my flowers. I put a dot of glue, that's the Barely Art Precision Glue, which is pretty darn awesome glue. And I have this little tray to catch the extra prills, and I will dump them back into that little container. Now that container is as full as it can be, all the way to the top. So when you open it, be really careful. And Spellbinders is selling those prills now also. All right, next step is the branch. The Plumeria die set comes with this branch, and I am adhering some of these flowers onto the branch. Now, I didn't really know where I was going with this project yet, and I would recommend figuring out what you want to do with your flowers before you assemble it at this point. If you just had the flowers all ready to go, the leaves all ready to go, your branch ready to go, and then started assembling it on your project, you're probably going to have better luck. But I was just playing. This is literally the first time I used this die set, and I wanted to see how it came together. I'm going to tuck some of these leaves in. There are 3 different sizes of leaves on this die set, and you can tuck them in however you would like. I'm just playing around trying to get this to look nice and full, and I can't decide which side of the leaf I want the glue on. Again, this would work way better if you wait until you have your project so that you can tack these down to your cardstock. I'm trying to add one more flower in here, but my glue hasn't set on all of them, and honestly, 4 flowers actually looks pretty darn good. It does look balanced. Usually I go with the rule of 3s or odd numbers, that odd numbers work better, but you know, sometimes it looks fine without an odd number. Next, I am going to use one of these Slimline Classics Fluted Classics. There we go. This is the Slimline version. I am taking the second to largest fluted size, there we go, and die cut that for some heavyweight white cardstock. I'm kind of in a tag kick right now, and I wanted something that would support all of this extra dimension. I'm also going to take one of the new stamp sets from Spellbinders. This is called Simple Sentiments. And I'm going to stamp that on a piece of this cardstock that I had spritzed with the Jack-o'-lantern Distress Mica Spray Stain. I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool and some embossing ink to stamp Happy Birthday. I did lay the dies on this cardstock to get my placement just right so that I knew I could actually die cut my sentiment after I had it heat embossed. I find it easier to do the stamping before I die cut on some of these shapes. I did have a little bit of embossing powder stick to the mica spray stain. Just used a dry brush to wipe that away before I applied my heat tool. And this melted so beautifully vivid. I love a good stamp that heat embosses so well. Now I'm going to tape these 2 pieces together because you can use that fluted die without the shape die. So it would just cut directly into your paper without creating a die cut shape, which is pretty cool. I did do this smallish oval because the Fluted Classics just came out this month. They have slimline, rectangle, circle, oval, and square. And I'm going to use the oval and the slimline on both of the projects I create today. I adhered to that oval with a little bit of coaster blank behind it for just a little bit of dimension, which helps when you're tucking things in behind it. I tucked in that branch of Plumeria, and then I had 2 flowers left, and I just kind of randomly laid them on the tag, and liked where they landed. And so I glued them down. I am tucking in some more of these leaves. I cut out way more than I needed to according to the die set, but I wanted lots of leaves. I've found that having more leaves is a good thing because the greenery really helps make your flowers pop. It adds the contrast, it adds fullness to your project. They have no clear-cut assigned spots, so you can add them all over the place to add extra accent to your project. I love how this turned out. These little Plumeria flowers, I did not think they were going to be my favorite between the hibiscus and the Plumeria, but I kind of think they are. They're gorgeous. And smaller flowers are easier to work into a bouquet and add fullness to other elements. And they're really simple since there's only 2 pieces for each flower. Now I pulled some twine from my stash, and this stuff is old, I'm telling you, but I don't get rid of a lot of things that I could use in the future, and this is definitely one of those things. Twine is one of those things that never goes out of style. I am folding that in half, tucking the fold through the hole, which I cut with or punched with my crocodile, another indispensable tool, and then tie a knot above the tag. Then I can use that tag however I like. Moving on to tag number 2, I'm going to show you how to assemble the hibiscus flowers. I am using the loop tool to do 2 to 3 strokes down each petal to give it some striation and some shape. And there are 2 pieces to each of these flowers, a 2-petal and a 3-petal. Again, creasing that center, folding it over my tweezer, tipping it over, and using the medium ball stylus to curl the very edges of the petals back. All of these little steps make all the difference in the world in creating these beautiful paper flowers. I am always shocked at how good they turn out. And they do take a little time, but honestly, I have spent more time doing things. It's not super difficult. It's a little repetitive, but I actually really love it. So to assemble this one, you put the 2-petal on top of the 3-petal. I find the biggest of those 3 petals, and that is the top of the flower, and then I tuck in my second layer and use the ball stylus, the small ball stylus, to cup those by pushing down in the center on my soft foam mat. The stamens on this one, you do not have to trim and make smaller. You just add a line of glue, roll it with your tweezer, and then add a little more glue. And again, I'm going to use the prills to add a little extra detail to the stamens for the hibiscus. Now, we're going to watch me make a giant mess. Yep, see, spilled all over the place. I had made such a mess with these prills, I decided to find a larger container in my stash so that I can take the lid off with a little extra space and dip my things right into it. Problem solved. Love it when I have extras, empty containers laying around waiting for a good purpose. Now to put the stamen in, I add a little puddle. Well, it's almost a puddle. I put a generous amount of glue in the bottom of the inside of this hibiscus flower. And then I take my rolled stamen, which I did let dry. I didn't want the prills getting in the way. And then I decided to stick it on inside one of my rolls of washi tape. Perfect. Let it sit. They dry. And now you have your beautifully shaped hibiscus flowers. Now they're really tight here. I will tease them out a little while I'm applying them. I'm assembling this tag the same way. I use the same dies, the same methods. I used a different piece of cardstock, a more pink colored cardstock, again left over from die cutting the flowers. And I am placing the hibiscus flowers on the tag and start gluing things down. Then I realized I didn't have my sentiment glued down, so I'm going to glue that down again with a little bit of Coaster Blank for dimension behind it. And I'm kind of my own worst enemy here. Now, if I just let that glue set up a little bit, I'm holding it down against the tag. for a few seconds, and then I let it go. And if I just let it go and let it be, we'd be fine. But I just have to push it. So here I am trying to use the tweezers to push that down onto the tag. Turns out I pushed too hard and the tip of the tweezer gets stuck in my flower. Just be gentle and give it a little time. That is my recommendation to you. So I try another pointy tool to see if I can get things to stick. But these are pretty heavy flowers. That's part of the problem. In the past, when I've assembled some of my other Susan's Garden projects, the flowers weren't near as big. These are really big and a little tippy. They like to lay on their side. You got to just give it a little time. And then I am putting some glue on the last of the hibiscus flowers. And this one, it does pretty well. I think I still end up knocking it off a couple times before it's done. But I promise all of these flowers are well adhered now. And really, I didn't have to do anything special. I just had to let the glue dry. Now I'm adding some fullness with the hibiscus leaves again. You could add another kind of foliage or flowers or both to both of these tags, but I decided to keep it simple and keep it to one die set one flower die set per tag. And I'm adding these leaves in here, and those flowers are still not quite set. I have to be super careful so I don't knock them off, and I don't want to have to add more glue. Just adding all of those leaves. I was determined to use all of the leaves that I had die cut. I'm going to take some twine, again the same two colors, and get a nice long length of those. I did use two different twines because I wanted to add a little color, and I didn't have a big twine that had the peachy orange color in it. So I compromised and used a baker's twine that's small and a fluffy white twine that I had in my stash. Again, just looping that through and tying a knot. And there is the second tag. I really like how that turned out. After I finished filming, I did fluff those flowers out a little more. Plus, I separated the stamens and made those a little fluffier. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know which of these tags you liked better. Or if you can think of some other great way to use these very dimensional flowers. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please take a moment to do that now. Give this video a thumbs up. That helps me out all the time. Leave me a comment. I love to hear from you. And if you're interested in any of the products I used today, check the description box below. Until next time, bye-bye.